Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Before we start, just want to make sure Mike Grimm and his father know that we're thinking of him. I know he's part of our media, the voice of Golden Gopher Football. I know his father's going through some health things right now. So if you just keep him in your thoughts and prayers as we continue to move forward, I really appreciate that. We miss him today, so just wanted to say that. It was a really special day for us. 2019 class being signed this morning. Really excited about it. It's a tremendous class. It's a pretty deep class. Again, another big class that we needed to be able to sign. This class has a lot of different attributes it brings to our program, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually, which we'll talk about here in a second. When I got here, I told you the two most important classes as we start this whole process of building a championship-style culture is the 18 class, get them in, play them, add them to the guys that are already here being developed, and then add them with the 19 class. And that's what we did. You know, last year we were able to play as many freshmen as we played. You know, in the bowl game, I think you'll see 8 freshmen starting on the offensive side of the ball. So we talked about that 18 class mixing with the guys on the team. Now the 19 class is going to come in. And I got the question earlier about, well, how do you get all these guys to tell them to come here if the 18 guys are playing? The 18 guys are playing, and you're telling the 19 guys are going to play because I've proven we're going to play freshmen. It's not like you have a bunch of juniors and seniors and say, yeah, you can come here and play early and you can play, and then there's no freshmen on your roster. We have a lot of them, and the best players and the best people will play, and they always will do that. Guys who do the right things will play, and they'll always do that. So I'm really excited about these two classes moving through the next few years collectively together, and really excited about what they can bring towards Gopher football. So a few things we wanted to focus on with the 19 class. We wanted to focus on the defensive side of the ball. Not to say that we didn't focus on some of the 19 positions on offense, but we wanted to focus on the defensive side. Last year you saw we took 7 offensive linemen, took a lot of wide receivers, did a lot of things on the offensive side of the ball. This year, heavy defensive linemen, which you got a chance to see, and the secondary players. We also wanted to make sure we kept 2 or 3 scholarships available to be able to hit possibly the free agent market, which is now kind of dripped into college football. Kind of everybody's calling it a free agent market when names get put into a portal, whether it's a transfer, whether it's a grad transfer in January when we go back out recruiting, because that's going to be a big step in college football is to be able to have that January for those things. So we learned last year we would have loved to have 1 or 2 more. We would have loved to have 40 scholarships last year that we could sign. But we felt like signing the 25 all on that day was what we had to do to move forward. This year we felt like keeping 2 or 3 to be able to have that January, like I said, free agent type market. And, you know, we still have 1 player committed to us that is going to sign in February that we're going to, you know, when you get in big boy fights, I mean, that's what we want to be is in big boy fights. And that's what we want to be able to have in our program. We want to be able to have people look at us that way. And we'll recruit against anybody. We want to do that. And we want to be in those positions. So as we even continue to go through on to February, you could see another 1, 2 high school, 3 high school kids even sign in February too, as we continue to leave no stone uncovered and unturned. So a lot of state champions, 7 state champions, even a basketball state champion in this as well, which would possibly make 8 if you count that in state champions as well. We wanted to make sure that people coming into this program know how to win championships. To win championships, you must have champions. Right? And people and players to be able to make sure they did that. We wanted to be able to make sure these players help their high school do something really special. You'll see a lot of teams get to the state finals, get to the state semifinals, maybe not be as necessarily that good at the beginning and be really good by the time they left. We wanted guys that could completely flip a program around and be part of turnarounds and have part of that energy to bring to our program of saying, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to be part of something maybe for the first time in half a century. That has to be something they want to do. That's got to excite the people that come here. And we feel like this class did that. And, you know, this is the highest ranked consecutive class in school history, which we're very proud of since the internet era. Again, the players and the kids like to hear those ranking things. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good football team. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a really good football player. But I think it's very important for donors, for boosters, for supporters to know what type of quality people we're getting, players we're getting, and who we're beating on the recruiting trail here at the University of Minnesota. This is Minnesota's highest average ranking for offense and defensive players ever. We've got 7 state championships, which we mentioned, 7 state champions. We got 18 of the 23 members were multi-sport athletes in high school. just very similar to what we did last year. We love players that play multiple sports. It's not a must, but it's as close to a must as you possibly can get to come play for us. And then 13 of the 23 members of this class are enrolling in January, which we wanted to make sure these guys are here early because, again, we're going to need a lot of them to play for us next year. Probably aren't going to want to hear this, but next year we're probably still going to be a little bit young. I'm not saying we're the youngest, so don't be saying, Coach Fleck, here he goes again, talking about how young he's going to be. Here's another excuse. But that's how we're doing it. When the days that you start seeing 23, 24 seniors walking on senior day, that's when you know program is starting to work in terms of being the developmental program that we want to have. Again, I know we compete against them, but Northwestern's a great example. What Pat Fitzgerald did this year in a developmental program to go win the Big Ten West, defeat the teams they did, play Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship is a tip of the cap to him and the way he's built the program at Northwestern. So when you talk about developmental programs, that's what I mean, what we want to be here. We want to bring high school student athletes in here, develop them as freshmen all the way through their senior year, or if they're blessed enough and lucky enough and good enough to leave as juniors, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to do that as well. But again, we are going to develop them and then fill in some holes, whether it is with a grad transfer or with a junior college player, but not build our entire team and recruiting class based around that, but do it more of the developmental high school route. So very proud of the class. There's a lot of players that we're going to get to. You know how I work. We are going to talk about every player. So if you have a question on that, let me know. Every player signed. Every player is a part of this team, and every player deserves for me to be able to talk to him. The first player I'll talk about, really in alphabetical order, is Namdi. He's just kind of like Prince. He goes by one name, Nam. That's all you got to call him. And he's a tremendous wide receiver. He's about 6'2", 230 pounds. He's out of the Fort Worth, Texas area. Clay Patterson did a great job recruiting this young man. And I remember when Clay Patterson came in and said, Clay, we got to get some guys out of Texas. And he goes, Coach, Texas guys don't like to leave Texas very often. I said, well, you got to find a way to get them to leave Texas. Not only leave Texas, they got to come to Minnesota. And this young man had a lot of offers, a lot of big-time offers. He's big, right? So he's 230 pounds. This guy's very physical. He can catch the ball in traffic. He's a guy that can catch a slant, go the distance. Again, a multi-sport athlete, runs track as well. And we're lucky to have him here. And this guy's going to really add to our wide receiver core. We have some of those guys that are around the 6', 6'1" area, the height-wise, that are long, rangy. But then we added some guys with some major length as well, which we felt like we needed to be able to have at that position as well. Our next player, MJ Anderson, he's a defensive end from the St. Louis, Missouri area, one of the top-rated players in the state of Missouri. This young man was the Class 6A Defensive Player of the Year, right? So the highest class Player of the Year in the state of Missouri. Won the state championship in Missouri at Christian Brothers College. He's really kind of a fun fact. He's got the longest arm span, arm length of anybody in our class, and that's important when you play the D-line. One of the biggest measurements we take on the D-line is how long your wingspan is, to be able to get inside and keep those tackles at a distance instead of letting them keep inside of you. You've got to be able to keep them at a distance. You got to be able to have space. You got to be able to play people with one arm. He's incredibly strong, and we're so blessed to have him. He's got a 3.0, and father Michael and mother Venetia. I had a tremendous home visit with him, and he's a young man that went through a lot of recruiting, went through some highs, and then we had to basically get him back as well because you wanted to make sure he was making all the right decisions, and we supported him all the way through that. We're just really glad he's here. Another big, long defensive end that has incredible twitch, can play inside and can play outside. So he'll help us at the 5 technique, the position that Big O plays that you see him, Winston Labadier III as well. Our next player in alphabetical order is Solomon Brown. He's a defensive back from Largo, Florida. Largo High School. He's a mid-year enrollee. He'll be here mid-year, so you'll see him there. He's a multi-sport athlete. Had to fight off a lot of people in our own conference for this player. He's very versatile. He's a wonderful young man, very confident young man. You have to be to play in the secondary, but he gives us the versatility to play corner and safety. Not only that, he can play the money position, which you got a chance to see Chris Williamson do later in the year. That's a very important position for us because of so many teams we play that are more spread-oriented. Had over 200 tackles in his career. So we're talking about a defensive back. When you're in our system, you've got to be able to tackle, and you've got to be able to tackle well. Very, very smart young man. Excited to have him. Our next student athlete we'll talk about is Michael Brown Stevens. One of the fun things we had today that Garrett Chernoff kind of adds his touch to signing day. If you get a chance to ever get up there, it's fabulous. It's a lot of fun. His uncle is John Legend, and literally the John Legend. And it's kind of funny because he's Heather and I's favorite musician and an artist. And it's just weird that they just talk about him as Uncle John. We're going to Uncle John's. We're going on tour with Uncle John. My Uncle John going on tour, that's a little different than just going on tour with Uncle John. But he's the most humble young man. They have one of the best families I've ever been around. They've got this really cool wall in their house they're called the Celebrity Wall. And I'm thinking, all right, head coach is going to go on the wall. This is going to be a big deal. When's my picture get up there? Listen, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama are on that wall. You got John Legend, all his friends, Christy. You got everybody up there, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going on this wall. They got 3 dogs. I'm like, where's the picture of the 3 dogs? Put me on that wall. And but he's a multi-sport athlete. He's known as number 198. So when you see him, you're gonna call him, hey, you're 198, because that's the only way Coach Chirac ever remembered him from our camp circuit. He's like, the best wideout we saw was that 198 guy. And it was Michael Brown Stevenson. And he's a young man that came to camp and had to be able to come to camp in Ohio. And he had multiple offers at the time, but me and receivers, I've got to see him live. I've got to watch him. And we go down there, and he made play after play, comes up to me and goes, Coach, just want to let you know you're going to have a show today. And usually when players come up and tell you that, you're like, okay, this kid's a little confident for me. He goes, I'm gonna run a 4.4 for you today. I'm like, not on my watch. It'll be very difficult for you to do that. I have an NFL slow watch, and he did. Not only that, he goes, I'm going to show you I'm the best player here, and I'm going to leave no doubt in your mind. And he did. And by the end of that, we did everything we could to make him a Gopher in the next coming days, and we were. And he's from Springfield, Ohio, and just got a wonderful family. Missy and Tony are tremendous parents to him, and it's a lot of fun. They've got a dog, a pit bull named Chop, and he's the biggest dog you've ever seen in your entire life. And they told me he's the nicest dog you've ever seen in your entire life, but I wasn't allowed outside, so I couldn't tell you if he was really nice or not. But he's tremendous, and just a tremendous family. Really, really enjoy this young man's personality. I think you're going to love it, too, as you get to know him. Next player, I think he's the most underrated, under-the-radar player we have, that everybody talks about some other guys. This guy, we went down to a state championship game, watched it at Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Georgia, and he was by far the best player on that football field. D'Angelo Carter, he's a nose guard for us for Leesburg, from Leesburg, Georgia. You want to talk about strength, twitch, explosion, arm length, everything. I mean, he's a nose tackle that can move side to side, and in our system, you got to be able to stunt and move. He had 4 sacks in the state championship game, a forced fumble, and he was the player of the game in the state championship, and just a dominating performance by him. A multi-sport athlete as well. He's in track and field. Just cannot wait. His tenacity and his motor is unlike any I've seen in recruiting, and I can't wait to get him here. Can't wait, because he's going to be a big part of what we do. Next, one of the more celebrated guys in our class, just from the media's perspective, from Atlanta, Georgia, Cedar Grove High School, who won a state championship as well, a mid-year enrollee, Rashad Chaney Jr. His father, Rashad Chaney, has done a great job, senior, of raising this young man and putting him in the position that he is. This is, as everybody talks, this is an ESPN 300 young man. This is a guy that's been committed to some of the greatest programs in the country. And I give a lot of credit to Marcus West for continuing to recruit a young man even after he was committed, to stay on him. There's a lot of reasons why a relationship goes one way or another throughout an entire 2-year recruiting process. And Marcus West was right there. And that was the biggest difference for us getting this young man, or him going to another place that might be a top 10 program right now. And we're really excited about having him. Won a Georgia State championship, as we said. He's the highest ranked player to ever sign out of Georgia. Just beat out Bateman, and we know how good Bateman is. But this guy's got incredible explosion, get off, and incredible power. So, again, we needed guys to be able that were strong enough to get in here to help us early, and especially on the inside part of the line of scrimmage. We had to be able to have that. No questions asked. We couldn't take somebody on the inside that we said, well, they're not going to be able to play for 2 years. That was unacceptable. We needed guys that were going to be able to play right away, no matter if they were a freshman or a junior college player. And Rashad Chaney Jr. does that. He'll be here mid-year. Our next player is our quarterback. One of the quarterbacks we brought in, Jacob Clark, who's at Rockwall High School down in Texas. He originally was in Kansas City. This is a big 4-star recruit, according to 3 major publications. This guy is a gunslinger. He's not only a gunslinger, but he's got incredible intangibles. Threw for over 430 yards against one of the most prolific and one of the most historic high school programs against Allen High School. I think it was in the first round of the playoffs or second round of the playoffs. Multi-sport athlete. He was a basketball state champion. He threw for over 6,000 yards in his high school career, over 60 touchdowns. Again, how important are camps? This is a young man that camped with us down in Oklahoma. It's not that far of a drive for him, so we were able to get down there, identify talent down in that Oklahoma City, Dallas area, down in Texas, and we needed to be able to get one of those Texas quarterbacks, and we did. High intangibles, wonderful young man, incredible family, very, very smart, and can diagnose and process things very quickly. And he's got a heck of an arm. So 6'4", 215 pounds, mid-year enrollee, will be here in January. Some of you might not have known about this young man, but we've been recruiting him for a long time. Jamal Adye, our defensive back coach, has been recruiting this young man out of Tampa, Florida, but he came to the way of us through Hutchinson Community College. Jamal Adye is from Tampa, knows everybody in Tampa. And remember, we always say we want relationships of where our coaches have been, where they've coached, where they were raised, not just an area. We want relationships. And Coach Jamal Adye has known this young man for a long time. Kelvin Clemens, the cornerback from that Tampa area. You know, he's 6'1", 6'1.5", 205 pounds. Very physical corner, can play safety, but he is a big physical corner. And as we've kind of watched, as we've progressed, you know, we wanted bigger corners that can be physical in our league, especially in the run game. When you go back and look at some of the issues we've had defensively, we've got to be able to play more physical and set edges and be more of linebacker-type tacklers at the corner position with a lot of people that we bring in as we move forward. He had 15 PBUs in 2018, another multi-sport athlete, a late addition to all of you that you kind of found out today. But for us, Jamal Adye has been recruiting him and known him for a very long time. He's a top 10 ranked junior college cornerback, and he'll be a mid-year enrollee as well. Very unique story. He's never visited campus. So some of you are like, how do you get a guy who's never visited campus? Technology. You use technology the best way you possibly can, and you use it the best way you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, for as long as you possibly can. And he's seen probably more of campus than probably anybody who's been on campus. So really, really proud of his trust and commitment to us and his belief in us as well and the trust that he has in us. So Kelvin Clemens, really excited to have him. Our next addition's Tyler Cooper from just across the border in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. Went to St. Croix Falls High School. This guy is a barrel-chested, big, gritty, nasty guard. When you watch his film, that's who he is. He's only about 45 minutes away from our campus, another camper. So he's 6'4", about 310 pounds. He's one of those guys you got to watch live to be able to really respect how he plays, because he plays so hard and he has incredible how and passion, and he plays the game the right way. It's not just, hey, yeah, he's this, yeah, he's this. No, he doesn't want to run the 40. No, he doesn't want to work out. No, he's not going to do it. This kid did everything we've asked him to, and we're really excited about having Tyler Cooper here, just a road grader. And I still remember meeting him for the first time. We're in my office, and his family travels all together. I mean, everybody, right? So grandpa, you know, mom, dad, brother, and brother looks at me, and he doesn't say anything, right? I mean, the little brother usually never says much in my meetings until I ask him. But they said, you want to say something? He goes, yeah. He kind of looks at me and goes, you're not my favorite head coach. And you can imagine who his favorite head coach was, which is a pretty good football coach in college football in that state. So, but he let me know that I wasn't, but at least we were able to convince Tyler to come here. But I think I got his brother by the end, so I think he's kind of, maybe he's got 2 favorite head coaches by now. So maybe not. Maybe I didn't win that battle. So our next player is an awesome story. What an awesome home visit, which we'll talk about here in a second. Listen, if one of you want to make a lot of money one day, you got to invent a reality show based on recruiting home visits for 3 weeks. There you go. And I don't know who is crazy enough to actually allow you to do that, full access to everything, but it would be the biggest and craziest reality show, and you'd be just amazed at what we get to see and how much fun we actually get to have. I'm not talking about Heather Shopping and all the cities we go to, but I'm talking about the actual home visits of what we do. James Gordon from Plant City, Florida, Plant City High School. This young man is you talk about hitting, you talk about running. I mean, he can run, he can hit, he's fast. He had a lot of in-state schools on him for a long time. And to be able to stay committed, you walk into the home visit, and and they call it the man cave. And it's kind of off in this distance, and down there in Florida. It's kind of off back in the woods a little bit. And you kind of walk in there, and I've never seen more family members in my entire life. And you walk in there, and immediately here comes a head football coach from the University of Minnesota, and boom, you get hit with all other flags, memorabilia, posters, signs, colors that aren't ours. You talk about being nervous. Like, wait a second, I just walked into a trap, right? And but he was the one, and all of them are talking about those teams, and he's committed to us. And I said, like, this is amazing. This kid's got all these people talking about where he should go and what he should do, and he stuck true to where he felt he belonged. Introduced me to everybody he had. We had alligator. I don't know if any of you have had alligator before, but it's a combination between like calamari and chicken. Like, it's in the middle because texture is really important to me when I eat food, and it's in the middle of that. Then it's fried, perfectly fried, and there's the alligator. You know, it's not like it's like, hey, you know, we're going to hide everything. There's the alligator, pictures of the alligator. And it was a very interesting home visit, one of the best I've ever had. You talk about a young man who wants you to meet everybody in his family. He introduced me to everybody that was there, every single person. And it was really amazing to be able to see him light up, so proud to be a Minnesota Golden Gopher. He had 136 tackles on the year, 26 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 5 interceptions as a senior with 3 pick sixes. Not just pick sixes. We're talking about long ones, too. One-handed ones, very athletic. Committed us during the summer splash that we have on our OV here. So you talk about what the importance of the summer official visits are. Very important. A young man from Florida committed to us in the summer here, right? And used his official visit in the summer and committed to us. So had a hard pitch from a lot of people late. He's a wonderful young man. He's got a smile that'll light up a room. So excited for him joining us here. Our next student athlete is J.J. Adye from really central Illinois, Washington High School down there in Washington, Illinois. He's a mid-year enrollee. When we met JJ, he was about 247 pounds. And there's a lot of 270-pound, 6'6" type bodies in the country. And you've got to diagnose who can get bigger and who can't. So you look at dad, you look at mom, you look at all bone structure, you think you're really smart, and you're kind of evaluating these people. And all of a sudden we're thinking, okay, this guy's going to get really big. We didn't know he'd, in 6 months, be 307. And that's what he is. And he's done it the right way. He's big. He's strong. His home visit, again, interesting. He lives in a cul-de-sac, in a subdivision, cul-de-sac. But this cul-de-sac, in the backyard, some of you have dogs. He has horses, goats, donkeys, chickens, and ducks. We're talking about a subdivision, and we're talking about a cul-de-sac where other people live in that cul-de-sac. It was the most interesting deal. I got a chance to go out there, feed the horses. There's one horse that doesn't go anywhere without the goat. They're best friends. Wherever the horse goes, the goat's got to go. And where the goat goes, the horse follows. It's amazing. One of those, we talk about relationships and recruiting. There you go. So he was an IHSA All-State player. We're really proud of the offensive lineman we're bringing here. You know, we haven't had an offensive lineman drafted in 12 years. And we're going to change that. And we're changing that through recruiting and development. But when you talk about that, you know, he's one of the 8th highest-ranked offensive linemen to ever come here. Well, some of the other ones were Curtis Dunlap Jr., Daniel Falele, right, Blaze Andrews, right? We're talking about 4 of the highest out of the top 8 in the history of our program in the internet era. However we've done that are here right now, are going to be here for this coming year and developing in this. So we need this to be offensive line U, and it deserves to be. He's a mid-year enrollee. Again, just a tremendous multi-sport athlete, basketball, baseball. Led his team to 11-1 record, one of the best records ever at the high school. Tremendous student athlete, J.J. Adye. Also, he was one that actually cooked the home visit meal, which was very interesting. And he did a tremendous job, by the way. I mean, knocked it out of the park. So he'll pass the Gopher for Life cooking class for sure. Next player from St. Louis, Missouri. Again, Kenny Burns really did a nice job recruiting the St. Louis area for us this year from Lutheran North High School. Coach Reed does a great job down there of helping all of us just in terms of being the recruiting coach down there as well. Devient Harris, defensive end. Not the biggest guy, but might be the most twitched guy we have in the class. He can really get off on the ball. He's got incredible speed, great pad level, can dip, can bend really well. He had 263 tackles, 67 tackles for loss, 20 sacks on the varsity. Was one of the first members committed to us of this entire class. Multi-sport athlete, again, just a wonderful get for us to increase the speed on defense of what we feel we need to be able to do and rush the passer. So D.V. Harris, really excited to have him, 6'2", 220 pounds out of St. Louis. Next up, an area young man, Minnesota native, Cole Kramer, quarterback out of Eden Prairie High School, played for the legendary Mike Grant, mid-year enrollee. You know, we had Cole Kramer in camp. When you came to one of our camps and you saw these, highly ranked guys, a lot of offers, and you kind of threw them in the mix with all those guys, by the time you got out of there, you wouldn't know who had the offers, who had the stars, because Cole Kramer was right in there with everybody else. I know he's in a kind of a run-first type offense. This young man didn't throw an interception until his senior year. He is a 4.5 40 young man. He can really fly. He's tough. He's got a really good arm. He's incredibly intelligent, and he's a football guy, coming from a very historic football program in the state of Minnesota. He's first cousins with Carter Coughlin, and obviously his grandfather was the former Gopher, Tom Moe, which a lot of you know who he is. And he was our first commit of the 2019 class around this time, right now, last year, to get this thing going, him and Jason Williamson. But he won a state championship as a junior, as a starting quarterback at Eden Prairie. So, again, getting our local talent to be here, very, very important. Congratulations to Cole Kramer for being with us. Next up, our kicker, Michael Lance. Obviously, with Emmett Carpenter moving on, we needed to be able to replace that. And I'm one to go after the best we can possibly get. And no hold back. Just let the guy, get the guy, the best guy we can, be able to have him kick as a freshman and go from there. And Michael Lance has the ability to do that. He's from Stars Mill High School down there in Georgia. He was offered back in January. We had him really ranked at the beginning, really, as our number one kicker. And then as we went through, he wanted to wait. And then, obviously, you've got to move on at some particular time. Coach Wanger went down to see him right after the 2017 season. He's a 5-star kicker by Cole's Kicking Camp, one of the best in the country. It was a perfect 45 of 45 in PATs, had 25 field goals made in high school. This is one of the things when we sat there and talked, even in the summer when he visited, that is just meant to be. And you kind of have people put you together at somehow, some way that we found our way back. However we found our way back at the end, we found our way back together, and we know it's meant to be, and we're excited to have him. He will not be here at mid-year. He will be here in June as well, and if there's one position that's okay with, I'm okay with kicker because he can kick down there in Georgia all year round. So congratulations to him and his entire family. Michael Lance out of Georgia. Our next recruit, you don't have any favors because they're all your son when you get them. This kid is a really special young man. One, because he's from an area where I'm from, literally right down the street from where I was born and raised and grown up. And he's from St. Charles, Illinois. Tyler Nubbin, corner, 6'1", 190, out of St. Charles, Illinois. This tells you a little bit about this young man. They just get done. I think it's the semifinal game, and his whole team, because he led them to the state finals for the first team. He led them. He played Wildcat, played corner, he played wideout, did everything. And at the end of the game, they win, and they're chanting his name. Nubbin, Nubbin. The whole team's chanting his name. Well, then he steps in and says, no. SCN. And there's a whole video of it. It's really emotional because he took all the attention off of him, put it on everybody else. He's a very selfless young man to take all the attention off him, put it on somebody else. And that's the type of young man we're getting. Very, very high academia young man. His father, Rodney, played at Eastern Michigan. Mother, Charisse, is probably the best athlete out of everybody in that family. And whether Rodney agrees with that or disagrees with, that's what we know. But he's one of the best academics young men in this class. He's a 3-time academic all-conference player, all-state honoree, multi-sport athlete, one of the 25 highest-ranked commits in the history of the University of Minnesota. And he's just a wonderful young man. And he's going to be here, and he's one of those guys you want to rely on this year. And he brings a lot to the table. So congratulations to Tyler Nubbin and his entire family and the entire St. Charles community. Next up, another mid-year enrollee, Trey Potts from over there in the Williamsport, PA area. And I've always wanted to go to the Little League World Series. Problem with the Little League World Series is it's right during fall camp. So it's on the bucket list for Heather and I and the kids to go to one year when we're done coaching. But he lives right there. So anytime, I just wanted to get there and talk about what's Williamsport like during the Little League World Series. Well, I guess when you live in Williamsport, though, it's great. But it's just kind of like one of those things that is like, yeah, it's happens every year, Coach. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, oh, it's a huge deal. Like, show me around. Like, what do we do? Where do people go? So, but he's a multi-sport athlete. He's a young man that averaged 10 yards per carry, and he's very quick, very elusive, great receiver out of the backfield, scat back. This young man can play multiple positions, too. We're going to have some tailbacks in the backfield. He's coming back after from in-season surgery, so we're going to have him back ready to go when he gets here. Pretty much, hopefully get him through some spring ball, get him through some things he's able to do. But, we're talking about an all-purpose back that can do a lot. Really help us in the return game as well. Punt return, kick return. Williamsport High School. Again, Trey Potts. Congratulations. Next up, another mid-year enrollee. A lot of you know who he is. He was part of what we had a gray shirt last year. Logan Richter over there from Perm, Minnesota. Peyton Jordahl from Perm, Minnesota as well for all of our Gopher fans. This young man is really big. And he's really strong, and I think he's gotten a lot better in his senior year. He's got great get-off, great twitch. He's really big. He's about 6'4", 315, 320 pounds right now. But I thought he moved way better as a senior than he did as a junior. And he's really worked hard at getting his body to where it needs to be. He's really worked hard at his strength and conditioning. And he'll be a mid-year enrollee that we need to be able to help on that interior side of the ball, or that interior defensive part of the ball, and I know he will. Next up, another mid-year enrollee, Keontae Shad, from Madison, Wisconsin. This is by the way of Ellsworth Community College. This was when you talk about recruiting battles, this was one of them. And I'm so thankful he signed with us. It was a long road with a lot of schools involved. When you're really the number 2 junior college ranked player in the country in terms of defensive tackles, everybody's on you. But the need to be able to play early, the location of his family being right in Madison, Wisconsin, right across the border. He had 19 and a half tackles for loss in junior college. We were his first offer and had him committed for a long time, and were able to hold on to him. And his home visit was really special because I know the axe means a lot to them. We brought the axe over there to his home, and that wasn't for any type of to show off anything. It's very important to him. He grew up around that rivalry, and for him to be able to pick us and his family and his grandma and for the other members of his family to be able to see that axe, that was important. It wasn't like we were holding it out the window as we drove down the road, or I was running through the streets of Madison with it. I mean, that wasn't what it was about. What it was about was being able to bring that to him because of where he's from, and the rivalry and the wonderful rivalry we have with Wisconsin, and really the respect of those two teams, what they have for each other in terms of what we have now. And really excited to get the axe back, obviously, and so was he. He was actually at that game in the stands. And that was really important for him to be able to see that moment. So we just need him to get here to hopefully experience it some more. So mid-year enrollee, Keontae Shad. Next up, another in-state talent, Peter Udoybach from Cretin-Durham High School, obviously coached by Coach Brooks Bollinger. This is another camp young man. We needed some length and some size at the wide receiver position. 6'3", 205, 210 pounds. And he's really long. He was actually the player of the game in the Minnesota All-Star game. Did a great job, set an actual receiving record for the All-Star game here in the state of Minnesota. And another what camp means and how important camp is to be able to get eyes laid on somebody. And we're so excited he's going to be a part of us. So glad to be able to have Cretin-Durham here represented at the University of Minnesota, and a St. Paul young man here as well. Another mid-year enrollee kind of finishing out in terms of our specialist, the number 1 long snapper in the country. And not very often you talk about long snappers when you talk about signing day, but we've had an amazing one, an elite one, for a long time in Peyton Jordahl. And a lot of you forget that that's actually a position that you have to replace because you don't hear about it very often. Brady Weeks from St. Peter's, and he's just a tremendous young man, from Fort Zumwalt High School. He's ranked the number 1 long snapper, like I said, by Cole's Kicking Camp. He's invited to the 2019 Under Armour All-American game. And last person that I had be able to have a specialist play in that game was back at Western Michigan by the name of Wyatt Pfeiffer, who got to play in another Army All-American game. And, this guy is, when you want to be able to replace your long snapper, you don't want to be wrong. He's on his official visit, stands up in front of everybody. We do these introductions and stands up. There's got a microphone. He goes, "My name is Brady Weeks, and I'm the long snapper, and this should be the last time you ever hear my name. Thank you," and sits down. And he's right. Right? You don't want to hear the long snapper's name, ever. You should always wonder who the long snapper is. The third year he's there, be like, "I didn't even know. Who is that kid? What's his name?" Because that means he's doing his job. He's a tremendous young man, incredible family. But he had to be able to compete head-to-head with high-pressure stakes to get invited to that game because they pick specialists based on your performance. He did a great job, got picked head-to-head, a lot of pressure, and will represent the Golden Gophers in that game coming up here soon. Next up, it was the last NLI we got in today based on where he lives, from Las Vegas, Nevada, and Desert Pine High School. Cam Wiley, running back, just a big physical back. Incredibly athletic, 6'2", about 200 pounds right now, and incredibly long, but very fluid, very loose hips. He's got a unique running style, very powerful young man. He's at the same high school as Jordan Howden, who's actually part of this class when you start looking at numbers of how we were able to use those numbers with Jordan Howden. Multi-sport athlete, really a track star. This guy's numbers are through the roof in terms of athleticism, speed, agility, height and weight for a running back, but then you're talking about vertical jump and everything else. But getting a chance to go out to the Nevada area, Las Vegas, and pull some players from some really good high schools out there, especially Desert Pines, was really good for us. Another in-state talent, Jason Williamson, a mid-year enrollee. A lot of you know him. He's Mr. Football in the state of Minnesota. Anytime you get your Mr. Football in the state of Minnesota who needs and wants and has dreamed of being a Gopher, it's really, really positive. From Owatonna High School, a back-to-back state champions, two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in the state. This young man ran for over 3,000 yards just this year. Just this year. That's unbelievable. Over 40 touchdowns this year. Over 80 touchdowns in 2 years. Those are unbelievable numbers. We get back, Heather and I get back, and from the Wisconsin game, we're putting on the TV, and there's really nothing on when you get back that late, and we're sitting there watching the ESPN Top 10 and just watching it. And all of a sudden, number 8, here comes Jason Williamson with his big game in the state championship, and I'm like, is that our Jason Williamson? From Owatonna, Minnesota? Yes. We rewind it, and it was really fun to watch. But multi-sport athlete, he's going to just be a great athlete, whether it's a tailback, whether it's linebacker, whether it's safety. I mean, this guy can play all over the field, and he's proven that. Went out to Cleveland, Ohio to get one of our linebackers from Garfield Heights High School, Donald Willis, 6'2", 205, 210 pounds. This guy can really run. He can block punts. He'll hit you. This guy's not afraid of any contact. He's very violent with the way he plays. Last 2 seasons, he had 235 total tackles, 51 tackles for loss, 19 sacks, 5 interceptions, and 6 defensive touchdowns, and a partridge in a pear tree. Unbelievable. All Ohio this season, multi-sport athlete, great basketball player. He led his team to an 11-1 record, which was the best record the high school has ever had. They never won 10 games. They won 11. He was the leader of the team. He committed, again, during our summer splash during the OV. So, again, very, very powerful group, very important group for us as we continue to build this program the way we want to be able to do it. Again, we have 2 to 3 left. Again, we'll also have a young man committed that will possibly sign in February. Knew that all along. Can't share that information with you as we continue to go through recruiting, but I can share that with you now. But also as we kind of get into that free agent market in January, we'll be interested in that as we kind of look at what we have as we keep moving forward and make some decisions on that. So very proud of this group, very proud of their commitment and their loyalty, very proud of our coaching staff, proud of our fans. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for helping us be able to get this group here. Thanks for always, doing what you do on social media, hitting them up. Thank you for all the coverage that all of you gave us throughout recruiting. It meant a lot, and it helps in every way possible. And as I recruit young men, one of the things I tell them about all of you, I said, you're going to be trained for real life. I said, media is not easy. So you're going to be trained for real life because this is a big-time media. Big time, right? They cover all pro sports. You're not going to get into your press conference and have one guy with a little camera that's on his phone and he forgot to start it halfway through, right? And then he's going to make up half the story. You're going to get cameras in your face all the time. You're going to be prepared for the National Football League. You're going to answer really tough questions. You're going to be able to have a big market where you've got to do all the right things. You've got to represent not only just the University of Minnesota, but entire state and all of Gopher Nation. So kudos to you. Again, I talk about you in recruiting as well. So just appreciate everything, all the coverage everybody gives us. With that, the opening statement is finished, and we'll open that up for questions.
Well, Coach, Todd Wilson, Channel 5. Here's my question.
Sure.
You're preparing for the bowl game, and you start practice. There's a thought that there are some players that are not playing or not going to the game. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, when I was out recruiting, there was a report that 6 to 8 players were not practicing. There were way more than 6 to 8 players not practicing for a lot of reasons, right? I allow people during bowl prep to miss practice for finals, for studying for finals if young men have to be able to get the grade that they possibly able to need. We have concussion protocol that if people have concussions, especially early in the concussion protocol, that they're in the training room, they're not on the practice field. We have certain injuries that are rehabbing inside that training room. We have guys that have already committed to go on to the National Football League to bypass the bowl game. We've got transfers that young men, right when the season's done, meet with me, talk about, even leading up to the last few games, talk about possibly leaving, going on official visits, and going to somewhere else because maybe they weren't playing as much as they thought they were going to play. And then there's also, if anybody breaks any team rules, yeah, I'm a football coach that's going to discipline people. But either a player or players will not play in the bowl game. If you do not do the right things, you will not play. But I'm the same guy who sat a guy home during the season for not going to class, period. So that's not going to go away. This is a privilege to play here at the University of Minnesota. Not anybody's right.
Are there any players that have violated team rules that are not playing?
If young men have violated team rules, it has been dealt with, and it will always be dealt with swiftly, quickly, and correctly.
I'm sorry, did you say that there were players that had been, won't be playing because they violated?
No. I said at the beginning that the report was there were 6 to 8 players who missed practice. There's a lot of players who missed practice. So I'm not sure where the number came from that, especially with sources. I don't get that, especially when that's just, what people say. And it's unfortunate that some of those players get tied to certain things because people just speculate and talk. Young men go on and go somewhere else, and they're tied into things that people are talking about, and that's unfair for young people. So we have high expectations of our student athletes, period. They will always be, and they will be dealt with accordingly, always, no matter what.
How many of those players are sitting out because of violating team rules?
A player or players will miss the bowl game.
How many?
Not 6 to 8.
Okay, that's fine. I understand.
Because we're talking about what was reported, so not 6 to 8. That is completely inaccurate.
Then what's the accurate number and what's the violation?
Well, I'm not going to ever get into what student athletes do based on, in terms of, especially when you're talking about student athletes inside our program, based on what they have. But again, this has been nothing that was dealt with outside an illegal issue, nothing that was done in terms of domestic or violence or anything like that. So again, anything that gets done. But I never talked about any numbers. The numbers is inaccurate. So I'm talking about the reporting of the numbers. This is after the fact, because that numbers has been thrown everywhere, and that's inaccurate. So
What's the number?
I've told you, player or players, but that's not what this is about. That's not accurate.
What's accurate?
Not 6 to 8.
You're not going to tell us how many players are sitting for disciplinary reasons?
No, I told you why players are missing practice, because that's what was reported. What's reported is these players are missing practice because of all of those certain reasons.
Are there starters that are going to be missing the game?
Yeah, there could be.
Specifically?
Starter or starters.
For discipline, PJ, on that last question?
Yeah. Absolutely. But we have other people. Again, it was reported 6 to 8 players were missing practice. And that was tied into certain things, which again, that's I gave you a list of why those players, including sources, where people aren't necessarily, we haven't had open practices. So in terms of sources, I'm not sure where that number comes from. So, but to be able to report on that, I don't understand that. To be able to actually put that out there, based on what we're hearing with you not being at practices, especially with something that's not out there in terms of a legal situation. So that's what I was, just because there are so many people, as for the things I said, of why people miss practices, especially during bowl prep. But again, like I said, if people do break or violate any team rule, they will be handled accordingly.
PJ, as a coach, what's your thoughts or feeling on this kind of trend of guys skipping bowl games for whether to avoid injury or to work out, whatever?
Yeah, it's a trend in college football where people are skipping their bowl game right now. And I think that's been for a while, but I think it's becoming more popular and being covered a lot more and almost being expected of some people. I get it. I played in that league. I've coached in that league. There's a lot of people telling other people what to do. When you get to that point, there's a lot of other people in their ears by then at the next level in terms of people that possibly want to sign them, agents. They're getting information from different people on different sites, or they're getting all these certain, rankings of where they fit or where they should be. But there's only a certain amount of people that actually know where they're going to be drafted and where they're going to be, and that's the NFL. Those are the only people that actually know those things. But again, I get it. I think everybody has a certain case of why they should or why they shouldn't do it, and I think every case has to be handled individually. I do believe that. I had a guy that was a 5th overall pick playing his bowl game, and I've had guys that have left early. So it just depends on what the family thinks.
Do you expect anybody else to leave early for the NFL?
No, I don't expect that.
What was that conversation like with Blake and Dino?
Healthy. It was healthy. We're here to make sure that their dreams come true down the road, whatever they want to accomplish. I'm only here to give them the information of my perspective of what I think. They come to me because I played in it and I coached in it. I can give them advice, but I'll never tell anybody what to do. I'll give them my opinion, but I'm never going to say, you have to do this, and if you don't, why are you or why aren't you doing that? I think they're both really good talents, and they have both the ability to play in that league, and then they have to make that decision accordingly. They've both given a lot to the program.
Can you explain the process you're going to go through with Peter Dorbach and Tyler Cooper? Yeah,
we're able to use a lot of different shirts, but these two young men that we want to be able to have here are, they're fully committed to the university because of what they have to do personally to be here, and then have the opportunity later on to be put on scholarship down the road. So, but again, they're amazing players, and you got to get really creative when you really want some really good players. And those are two guys we feel down the road have really good chances to not only play, but to earn what they deserve.
PJ, you mentioned that freshmen will play, but when you look at this recruiting class specifically, how important was it for you to create position battles at every position, really, with some of the guys you bring in?
It's incredibly important. I think you've seen our team, come together as a team, and even the talent level elevate, not just because you brought in a class, it's because there's competition everywhere. Competition brings out the best in everybody. So when you have competition, and that guy knows he can't just be there, or I don't have to practice today because I'm the only player you got. We had a lot of that in the first year I was here, where you couldn't challenge them enough, except for just coaching them. You couldn't challenge him with another guy replacing him in the other position because there wasn't anybody even to replace him with. When we first got here, we had 4 linemen that could actually play for spring ball, so there wasn't like we could even put anybody else in there. But now you're starting to see, and now you'll start to even see that 18 class get this 19 class added to them. And just because you played this year, you're going to have to play better next year to play, because there's going to be another class in behind you. And the old rule I was taught was it's a head coach's job to out-recruit everybody on the team. And I make sure I tell my players that, but I soften it. I said, that's not saying I want to. And I say, you will be. It's your job to be able to keep your job. If you have a job, that's your job to keep it, because that's the NFL. They're going to draft people every single year. And if you're not going to compete and you're not going to be able to raise the level of your game every single day, then you're going to get passed. And that's what we have to create here. And it's not a fear or a threaten. It's just, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. We're going to keep competing with each other, not against. There's a big difference. We want Rashad Bateman to compete with the other wideouts from this year's class. We want him to compete with Tyler Johnson, not against them, with them. Make them all better, because they're going to make you better, and that'll bring the whole thing up, not just separate the team. Sometimes when you compete against, it separates everybody. Well, this isn't the NFL, and you can't cut the other guy or send him off to free agency or sign the other guy from another team. You have this is college football. This is education. This is teaching. You're bringing them all along with you. So I love it. I love bringing in another full class. I love bringing in talent. I love bringing in really good people to be able to add to what we have, to create more competition, to raise the level of our program on and off the field.
PJ, two-part here. Is it still the expectation that Rodney and Shannon will be back?
It is.
Still get that year?
They are. Yep.
You guys offensively averaged a touchdown more this year than last year, which is like a 40 plays jump nationally in scoring. What do you think the expectation is for that next year when you bring all the guys back and add those two?
Yeah, I mean, just be better than we were today, tomorrow. That's the expectation I have. You know, numbers are really hard to be able to sit there and put expectations on people. I want this team to be better than we were last year, and because it's going to be a different team. Right, so when you compare last year to this team, it's a different team. Now there's a natural progression you want to be able to see in performance. There's a lot of things that go into that. You know, we lost 5 to 6 of our best players at the beginning of the year. What would the year been like? I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all you want. It was what it was, and I think it's going to help our football team. I will say that as we move into the future to be able to have our offense mostly back. They gain the experience they have. A guy like Curtis Dunlap Jr. being able to start in this bowl game, because that will be his 4th game and still redshirt, that's going to help. Add this to this 19 class, and then be able to, as we keep going through our quarterback competition, find out who's going to be able to do that.
Do you know who your quarterback will be next year?
No, it's a competition. Nope, we're going to find out, you know, and we've got all of them. It's funny, we went from one scholarship quarterback to, I don't think it's any bit of a mystery that Zach Anningstead will go on scholarship. I don't think I have to be able to do something really tricky to be able to say, wow, never saw that coming. But we'll have 4 come January, basically, when you think about it. We went from 1 to 4, and they're all sophomores or younger. So that's what we wanted to be able to create with time.
So you enter the offseason, that competition's wide open?
We're going to let them all play. Yep, we're going to let them all play, see what they can do, and find the best person and player that's going to give us the best opportunity to win, you know.
What's the ball game mean toward jobs next year for the players?
Well, I think anytime you play a game, you're always evaluating, right? And the old saying, you're only as good as your last game, I don't necessarily believe that, but it gives you things to be able to say what's now and how are you going to change now to make it better then. But, you know, I'm excited we're in a bowl game. You know, I'm excited that, you know, we're in the Quick Lane Bowl. I'm excited we get to go to Detroit, spend Christmas at a bowl site. Those are things we can never take for granted. And I don't want to take for granted, and I never will take for granted, and that's been instilled into our football team. Every bowl is an elite bowl, and you got to get to them, you know. And I was really proud of our players to be able to do that. You know, anytime you go play the triple option, it's been a challenge for us, which you want. You know, I mean, I would have loved to have 3 weeks of just playing our style of defense to develop our guys, but we did that. We did that for the first week and a half during bowl prep, and it's been fun to be able to almost change everything, change positions, because you have to really redo your defense when you're facing the triple option, where you're going to see different people play different positions. You might see some guys who haven't played a lot play a little bit more based on the team that we're playing, and be able to really teach players a whole different type of system playing the triple option. I mean, that's kind of neat. You know, I mean, they're going to be able to now know how to be able to defend the triple option when they go be their high school coach or college coach. They're going to have that experience. Plus, you know, I mean, talk about Paul Johnson and playing in the ACC opponent that we have in Georgia Tech and playing in his, you know, coaching in his last game, a legendary coach that really has been a staple behind the triple option in college football for a long time. And the mark he's left on college football has been tremendous. So there's a lot about that game. It's a big game. This isn't just something. It's not just a bowl game. It's a huge game. And that's the way we've approached it with our players, approached it with our preparation, and approached it with everything we do on a daily basis.
So how has coaching changed for you from the time that you walked through the door here at the U to right now? I mean, is there a baseline that you said you saw something that needed to be here, that needed to come in, you needed to change something, and have you reached that baseline?
Yeah, I mean, every head coach has their philosophies. I don't think one's right or wrong or better or worse. I don't ever believe in that. Everybody does it their own way. And when you hire a new coach, you basically hire a new systematic approach, a new personality, new character, new way of disciplining. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned here is that consistency matters. And I've said that since day one. I'm honored that, you know, Mark Coyle, our President Kaler, have thought highly enough of what we've done to extend us another year. We're fully committed to the University of Minnesota. Heather and I love living here. We love coaching here. We want to bring that consistency here. That consistency's earned. It's earned by the players. It's earned by the coaches. It's earned by the staff. That's not something you're ever given either. You got to earn that consistency. And, we look forward to every day earning that. But I think consistency is something that's needed here. And I think that when you look at the other people in our league, especially on our West Division, that we play a lot, consistency matters to championship football. I already talked about Pat Fitzgerald and his Northwestern Wildcats. He's a good, close friend of ours. So I have no problem talking about him. And they've had consistency through really good years, through really bad years, and look where they are. So, again, we came here to be able to bring a championship culture back to the University of Minnesota. Not saying it wasn't here prior to that. Not saying that. I'm just saying that's what I was hired to do. And, again, that's what I know. And we want to be able to be that bridge from the past to the present now and to the future, and to be able to hold people accountable for what they do in every area of their life, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually, period. We are going to hold people accountable. And I think that's been a 2-year learning process for a lot of people at times about how maybe drastic I am at those at times. But I've said it since the day I walked in here. If you do the right things, you're going to be okay. If you don't do the right things, we're going to have a really hard time getting to like each other. And I think that's just something that I've believed in my entire life, and something that will never go away as long as I'm the head football coach here. And it doesn't matter who you are. And I think I want our team to be able to respect that, not to disagree with it or think it's hard or think it's tough, but know it's right. So.
Say one more, Chip, go ahead.
PJ, recruiting defensive linemen seems like that's a hard spot to
Yeah,
get.
it's very hard. You're right.
In the past, they've gotten undersized guys and had to build them up over a couple of years. What's the challenge when you're going after more, I guess, ready-made?
Yeah, well, we went after a type of body frame, a body structure, a type of talent. We knew that we couldn't take interior guys and wait 2-3 years for them to get to that body size. Now, when you do that, you put yourself in a whole different ball game of recruiting, whole different aspect of how many teams, whole different aspect of how many guys can visit, how many guys are actually interested. You put yourself in a completely different league. Projections at times are way easier to maybe recruit at times than the ready-made guy, because a ready-made guy looks way more impressive, which means probably plays a little bit more impressive. He's more developed in high school than other high school kids, and he's probably going to have a better high school career and better, maybe be higher ranked. And so we knew what we had to be able to get at the nose and 3 technique based on our defense and our style of defense, and we went after it really hard. Now, they're still 17 and 18-year-old bodies. They might be bigger bodies, but they're still 17 to 18 years old. I use Daniel Faalele as an example. He's a 6'9", 400-pound, 18-year-old man, young man. Well, he's got 5 more years of growth, technically, when you talk about the anatomy of a human being, around there, right? How much more can the guy grow? But there's a lot of things through his development, his bone development, his muscles, his weight training, his nutrition, his diet plan, the speed, the conditioning, all that stuff takes shape over a long period of time, especially for bigger guys. And we got the bigger guys. Now we got to just make them stronger, because a big body doesn't necessarily mean they're strong. This is a man's game that you have to be strong to be able to play, a strong game. And we feel like we've got the right guys to bring them into our strength and conditioning program, give them to Leslie and Dan Nickel and our entire strength and conditioning and nutrition team, and let them run with them. But those are great molds. You want the mold, you want the clay, and now you can build it. So I think we've done a great job of that. So
Just to
I
be clear,
appreciate.
you told us that there is at least one starter that is not playing on the 26th for disciplinary reasons?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are not telling us what those reasons are because?
It's a team rule, which we have multiple team rules. I can tell you every team rule that we have. We have multiple team rules.
So you don't feel any obligation to make that public so people can?
No, I think that's based on the student athletes. When you're dealing with young people, I think that's the student athletes' right to either do that or not. I do.
And you won't even give us a number?
It's not 6 to 8.
Yeah, but they're
And Rochelle, I think he's answered that question a couple times now.
Well,
We do have another media obligation we have to get.
So I appreciate everybody. Congratulations to all of us on National Signing Day, and appreciate everybody's coverage. So row the boat, Sky Ma, go Gophers. Thanks a lot, everybody.